Hello again guys, it's Carly from the Poetry of Nice, and today's video is kind of another roundup, but this one is going to be all about my all-time favourite vintage sales that I've had while selling online. So if you're new to my channel, welcome first of all. This is a channel all about reselling online. So currently I sell on 3 platforms. That will be Etsy, Poshmark and eBay. And I sell a range of things. I sell obviously like contemporary clothes, vintage clothing on Poshmark, accessories like bags and shoes and all that kind of stuff. And then on Etsy and eBay I sell a range of things, Etsy being completely vintage and eBay being a mix of both worlds essentially. So again, there's some vintage clothing in there, but there's also some hard goods and things like that that I sell that are vintage, namely like plush or home decor or I don't know, even down to like vintage bedding, all kinds of different stuff that I've sold over the years. I've been on Etsy now since 2016. This last year, 2018, has been incredibly slow for me on there, though I have had sales and I have, you know, done okay, but that's part of the reason why I ended up on Poshmark is I've been sort of supplementing, if you will, and I've discovered this massive love for the Poshmark platform. And I do manage to sell some vintage clothing on there as well. So there's going to be a few different things that I show you today. There's going to be Etsy, Poshmark and eBay. eBay, I don't have much to show you there. I'm going to tell you there right now. There's a couple of things stuck on at the end, but because they have a turnover every 90 days where you can't see your sold listings anymore, I don't have that much to share on eBay, I'll be honest with you. So this video is going to be primarily Etsy and Poshmark and my absolute favourite vintage sales, whether it be the things that sold for the most profit, the things that I just really enjoyed finding, like the treasure hunt, the things that I would have liked to have kept for myself because I just thought they were really, really cool, or that perhaps had some sentimental stories with them where I managed to reunite them with somebody who has been searching for them for a long time or just really, really love the item. So if that sounds interesting, please do hang on. I'm going to hop over to the laptop and I'm going to show you the actual listings. I am going to tell you how much I paid for them originally and where I found them, and then I'm going to tell you how much they were bought for by my buyers. And if you're interested in other reseller content, whether it be haul videos, sales videos, or you know, how to photograph, how to list, how to ship, all that good online seller stuff, please do considering hitting the subscribe button. I would love to have you stick around and see some more videos and be part of this amazing community that we've got going on in the comments. Alright guys, without further ado, let's go. Alright you guys, so here we are at the laptop and I'm going to go ahead and show you those listings that I was talking about. So once again, these are my favorite vintage sales that I've pretty much ever had, and I'll tell you why with each item. Again, how much it cost, where I got it from, and how much it sold for, bearing in mind the sales price is not including fees I paid on the platform after the sale, and the buyer has paid shipping on basically all of these items, but if there's anything that had free shipping, I will make sure to go ahead and mention that to you. So the first thing I'm going to show you is this. This might not look like much. It's a vintage Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles lunchbox with a thermos. The reason I wanted to show you this is it sat in my like death pile. It sat unlisted essentially forever because I thought that there was no way anybody would want it. It was so worn, I thought, like it had so many creases and flaws, like all of the scuffs. Like I picked it up because I thought it was cool. Like it was from the 90s. It reminded me of my childhood. My husband had, I think, this exact one growing up. I grabbed it for $1 at a yard sale because I just couldn't leave it behind. And then I just stared at it for a really long time and didn't do anything with it. So eventually I listed it on Etsy, and I was so surprised it sold within a couple of days of being listed. It sold for $24.95. So I had to share this. It even had like the kid's name on it. Like I just didn't think it was going to do anything, and it sold so quickly for that $25. Again, paid $1 for it. So I wanted to share that because, you know, sometimes we pick up things and think no one will find worth in them, even though we thought they were cool, and usually we're wrong. Okay, next item. I'm going to show this because, again, this was something that was quite surprising. It was a Christmas Advent candle wreath. And I found this in a estate sale for 50 cents. They were pretty much just giving it away at that point. It was ceramic, and I just kind of thought it was cool. It was obviously vintage. I was trying to get some Christmas stuff in my store, so I figured I'll throw it on up and see what happens. And it sold in one day. Again, paid 50 cents, and it sold for $39.95. And the person messaged me to say how much they loved it And I just really enjoyed finding this kind of like slightly different stuff. You know, it's not a brand name, it's nothing like that, but it was just kind of cool and older, and somebody else recognized that as well. Okay, so I'm going to show this because this kind of represents most of the Tommy Hilfiger stuff that I love to buy. Most people will know, if you have sold any Tommy Hilfiger or if you have seen any videos talking about it, the spell out vintage items are some of the best that you can get. So this was the front, this was the back. I absolutely love this. I ended up paying $10 at a yard sale for this, but I'm glad I did because it sold for $64.95. So a good turnover of profit there, and I just thought it was really cool. This is like the older label, but you can also look at the care tag inside, like sort of down this area here, there'll be a care tag with fabric content and things like that, and that will usually give you a year that it was made, so you can kind of tune in a little bit more as to how old a piece is by Tommy Hilfiger. All right, this one I just showed in my sales video, but I had to give it an honorable mention because I still can't quite believe that it sold for the amount that it did. I paid 25 cents at a yard sale. I grabbed it because I thought it was really cool. Again, pretty much the primary motivation of most of the vintage items that I grab at this point. But I really like the kind of old advertising and stuff like that. So I went ahead and grabbed it. It did have some wear. There was dirt and stuff on top. There's plenty of photos here to show what it looked like and some of the condition issues that it was working with. But as you can see there, paid 25 cents and it's all for $59.95. So, you know, these older graphics and like recognizable companies and stuff like that definitely can fetch a little bit of money. This again is an honorable mention. It only sold for $14.95 and I think I paid $1 originally, but this just pretty much represents the stuff that I really like to find in terms of vintage clothing. This like super 90s graphics. Oh my goodness, I just thought this was the coolest thing. So it only sold for 15 bucks. It wasn't a huge profit, but I just figured I'd show you it because this is the kind of stuff that I really like to find. These little guys I wanted to mention because, again, they're just a little bit different. They, again, completely unbranded. I'm not even sure if they were handmade, if I'm not completely honest. I found them at a very random estate rummage sale type situation, and I paid $1 for the pair of them. I almost thought about keeping them, but they were so incredibly delicate, and I just didn't trust my kids for half a second around them. So I ended up listing them, and they sold for $29.95. They were just little straw pumpkin people. I'm not really too sure how else to describe them, but making sure that there's keywords like rustic and farmhouse in there definitely helped. This I paid 50 cents at a yard sale and it sold for $34.95, and it's just an old Spuds MacKenzie Bud Light hat, like embroidered. It's a snapback. It was corduroy. It did have a little bit of wear here and there. And I wanted to mention this one because the comps for it on eBay were pretty darn low. It wasn't going for hardly anything. So another example of why cross-posting or making sure your items are on a variety of platforms with different demographic shopping, you know, they go for different prices. So someone paid $35 here, whereas on eBay, people were, you know, getting them for like $12 and stuff. But I felt that it was worth more. I thought it was too cool. There was not one exactly like mine. I did cross-post it. It didn't sell on eBay, but Etsy is where it went to. So, you know, think about exploring those platforms. Okay, this is definitely one of my favorites. I was at a little thrift store that's like, it's gone now, unfortunately. It's so sad, but this was buried in a whole bunch of, you know, like the really like cheap reading glasses you'll find at the drugstore and stuff like this. Well, this was at the bottom, and as soon as I touched them, I knew that they were something because they were so heavy and so well made. It turned out that this is the brand right here, the Bausch & Lomb. If I didn't say that right, forgive me. I'm not good at that kind of pronunciation. But anyway, as soon as I saw them, like that kind of Wayfarer style, I knew that they were like the 50s, like kind of like Buddy Holly style or whatever. It took a little while to get them to sell. I actually had a bit of a roller coaster with them, I have to say. I had them on eBay and I got an offer straight away for, I think it was $120 because I'd listed them high. And I counted it because I'd literally just listed them and I thought I had something a little bit special because this tightness, however you want to say it, isn't usually associated, I don't think. Like there was, my research had kind of led me to believe that this was a little bit different and a little bit harder to find. So I counted and they didn't accept, and then they sat for like 6 months and I almost didn't forgive myself. But eventually someone came over on Etsy and they bought them for $84.95. So I paid $1. I found them right at the bottom of a pile of those drugstore glasses. It just goes to show, look a little deeper. And if you find something that you can feel quality, just go ahead and take a chance. This is just another example of things I really like to sell. What can I say? This kind of mock turtleneck sweatshirt with embroidered and obviously peanuts. I love it. Paid $2 for this at a yard sale and it's sold for $29.95. It's just a bit of fun. I wanted to show you this because, again, this is an example of that kind of like 90s streetwear that I really, really like. And again, the spell out elements, I really enjoy that. This was like a suede brim hat. It was in great condition. And I found it for $1 at a yard sale and it sold for $39.95. I'll go ahead and show you that older tag as well. I just really liked it. Okay, so I sell a lot of like funky old sweaters and stuff like that. I sell like Christmas sweaters, like early Christmas sweaters, and I recently found out, as in like last year and this year, that ugly Halloween sweaters also do really, really well. So there's a tip. But I found this, it was by Northern Isles. It was all like hand knit, I think, and it was just fantastic. I mean, look at this thing. So it sold for $34.95, but it sold really quickly, and I paid $1 at a rummage sale. And this was sort of my turning point of realizing that you can absolutely sell these kind of like garish sweaters, if that's what you want to call it, for pretty much all seasons, not just Christmas. This is one of several Halloween blow molds and actually Christmas blow molds that I've sold. I really enjoy those, especially the ones that like actually light up and things like that. They are just really, really fun to me. I always want to keep them, but I never really have anywhere to put them, so I end up passing them along. But this sold for $34.95, and again, I paid $1 for it. These are just pretty much the most fun shorts I've ever sold in my entire life. Those like wide, brightly coloured stripes, and they sold so quickly, and they sold for $34.95 as well. I paid 50 cents for these at a rummage sale. They were high-waisted, like wide leg. They were denim, but with all this colour and whatnot. I love them, and they sold so quickly. So, you know, the wilder the better sometimes. Okay, I wanted to share this because, again, I mentioned the Tommy Hilfiger sweater a little while ago, and pretty much all of us at this point know like the sweaters or the jackets and stuff like that with the big spell outs. We almost all know to grab those at this point, like the big colour blocks and stuff. But I found these, which were like tapered leg. They weren't joggers because they weren't elasticated at the bottom, but they just kind of like lounge pants almost. They were very high-waisted, and I grabbed them because I thought, well, this is kind of cool to have that big logo right there at the front. And I paid $1 for them, and I listed them, and within a week they sold for $49.95. So just keep your eye out for that vintage Tommy Hilfiger stuff. You know, I guess the big logo helps us, but I never would have thought that they would have sold for that. I just kind of tested the waters, and they were scooped up pretty quickly. These are my second favourite pair of glasses that I've ever sold, second to the one I just showed you. And these sold for $40 with free shipping. This is the one free shipping item that I had to share. And I got these for 25 cents at a yard sale. The guy actually tried to give them to me for free. And I was like, no, please take something. And so I kind of bundled them all up with a bunch of other stuff I felt like I needed to buy because he was giving me stuff for free. And I gave him some money and everything kind of worked out, I think, about a quarter. But, you know, oh, I'm sorry. I just hit my list. Don't worry about that. Okay. So they were like a marbled colour. I don't know. They were just really cool. And this kind of cat eye. They were from the 60s, I think, is where I managed to actually date them to. And like I said, they sold for $40 with free shipping. But they were just some of the most fun things that I have been able to sell in terms of eyeglasses at this point. This I'm sharing with you because it's so random. So I've also found a little like strange little market where I find vintage Halloween themed books. And they sell really well for me come fall. I guess people use them as like decor and stuff like that, but this is just one example. So I found ones with like ghosts and ghost stories and witches and all kinds of stuff. Usually like the cartoony ones, like Halloween children's books. Yeah, and I only sold for $7.95, but I pick them up for like 25 cents when I find them. And they really have moved for me in the last 2 years. So there you go. This is just an example of my favorite Disney vintage sweater that I have sold. It's Mickey Mouse in, I'm guessing like New York is kind of what it's looking like, just like a cityscape in his sort of 90s plaid gear. I don't know. This thing is so cool. I'm looking back and I'm like, why didn't I keep this? Why would I not keep this? But hey, if I kept everything that I was interested in, I probably wouldn't have anything to sell. So there we go. Did have marks, did have flaws. It still sold for $34.95, and I paid about $2 at a thrift store. This was a great sale. I picked this up for $1 at a yard sale. It was full length dungarees. They were actually adult size. Usually I find them when they're kids. Total tragedy in terms of they had these Snoopy, like they're Joe Cool buttons. Oh, give me strength. But I put it through the wash and one came off and I never saw it again. So I was like, oh good, I created a flaw. Don't you just hate when that happens? So this is what they look like on the other side. They still sold for $49.95 plus shipping. I was over the moon and I just thought that they were cool. I'm so glad that someone else thought that they were awesome as well. These are the shoes. If I could sell any kind of shoes, it would be this kind of style. This like super 90s platform, like block, chunky heel. These obviously Tommy Hilfiger. They were like leather with like a mule almost, you know, because it's backless and stuff. They actually took a really long time to sell. I was kind of disappointed, but they finally sold for, what did they sell for? I think it was $49.95 they finally sold for, and I paid, maybe it was $34.90. Oh, I've got lost. I do this every video. I'm so sorry. I think it was $34.95 they sold for, which is still good because I paid $2 at a thrift store, but they took a really long time. Okay, these are one of the best buys that I've had, I think, in terms of vintage clothing. First of all, just look at these vintage cowboy boots. How amazing is that, like, turquoise deal with the bird and the hearts and stuff? Oh my goodness, they were Sears, they were vintage Sears, but I got these down in the basement of an estate sale, and I got them for $1 because it was the last day and they were just trying to get rid of everything. So they cost me $1, leather soles, all the good stuff, and they sold about 3 days before Christmas. A year or two ago it was now, for $124.95, and then they paid like $60 express shipping to try and get them there by Christmas. But I just remember being so excited by this sale because I just thought they were amazing. I couldn't believe they were still sat there on the last day for $1 and no one else had grabbed them. This is just a good example of kind of the weird and wonderful at estate sales that you can find. So this was hanging on the wall, and I had to sort of ask, like, is everything for sale? Like, the thing's hanging? And they told me, just get it down off the wall. You can have it. So I paid $2 for this, I think. And it was made in Switzerland. It was like jingle bells almost that would hang up, and you could, like, you know, touch them and make them do different, I don't know, different tones. Anyway, so I grabbed it off the wall and I thought, oh, go on then, we'll give it a try. And it sold for $34.95. So, you know, that was a little bit surprising, I have to say. I got into quite a while ago selling blankets. So I sold different kinds of ones. This was just an example of one that I did. Sold once, got returned because I didn't really like the feel of it. And then it sold again and the person was really happy with it. So it's like a Southwest, obviously, made in the USA. It's obviously vintage one. It was in good shape. There was no like major flaws or anything, just a little bit of washwear here and there. But it was like it was almost like a king size, I think. It was really, really huge. But I picked it up for $5, I think it was, at a yard sale. It sold for $99.95. I have since bought some blankets, but honestly, when it comes to blankets and fabric, I have a really hard time like motivating myself to list it, just because I feel like it takes such a long time to photograph and check out every inch for flaws and then measure. But maybe that's something I'll keep my eye out for in 2019, not sure. It's probably my favourite ever shoe sale that I've had. So these were the vintage Nike Airs. They're from the 1980s. The Delta Force. They have brought out some since that are like reimaginings, like retro versions, but these were actually from the 80s. I got them at my little rummage sale that happens every month, and I paid $1 for them. They were in fairly good shape, and they sold for $84.95. I just love those kind of older sneakers and stuff. This may win the award for most random sale. So I found this at a yard sale tucked in someone's garage, and I actually got two, and the other one I ended up donating. I took the patches off and donated the vest because I couldn't for the life of me sell it, but for whatever reason this one did sell. It's covered in different travel patches, so there were some really cool ones, some like, you know, like space shuttles and New Orleans and all this kind of stuff, and then a lot that were NCHA, like in Florida, which I guess is just some kind of like club or whatever. But I just went ahead and kept them all on there and sold it as it was, and it sold for $79.95. And like I said, I paid $1, so I never could sell the other one, but that one did good. This was kind of sentimental for me. This actually went to Australia. Someone bought this. I'm going to go through as well and show you some of these graphics. It was amazing. And it had pages talking about like what you do when you come home, like from the hospital, like from the 50s. So obviously a lot of that stuff we would not do with our children now. But it was really interesting. The illustrations and stuff were amazing. It was completely unused, though it did have some like age spots and stuff. I was just in love with this. I found this at a rummage sale on like a half price day. So I spent a total of $2 on it. And like I said, this actually went to Australia to a woman who had reached out to me, and she'd had a baby prematurely essentially. And she just now, several weeks later, felt comfortable enough like she was going to get to keep them, which kind of makes me feel emotional. I'm going to take a breath. But enough to invest in a baby book. And so she wanted to invest in something that was very unique and very special, just like her baby. And so this went off to Australia for $74.95 plus shipping, and I hope that they treasure it forever, and I wish them all the best. Of course I do. Okay, so this, I haven't found one since. I would probably still pick it up even though it's huge and it was really hard to ship. And I picked this up for $5 at an estate sale untested because I couldn't test it. There was no plug and like on the actual thing, and they didn't have batteries, so I just kind of took a chance. But it did work. It was absolutely fine, and it sold for $109.95 the same day that I listed it. And this is maybe one of my favorite items I've ever found. And if I had anything to do with it other than just stare at it and love it, I probably would have kept it, but I don't have anything to do with it. So I've mentioned before, like selling bed sheets, character bed sheets, vintage ones. This was a Disneyland version. It has all of the Fab Five on there doing all kinds of different random things, parades and don't even know, driving, Huey, Dewey and Louie. Like, it was cool. There's Princess and I guess like their steamboat and stuff. It was really cool. I really love this sheet set, and I paid $1 and it sold for $44.95. All right, on to Poshmark real quick. This is a recent sale. Some of these will be a little bit more recent, and then at the end I'll show you a couple of eBay pieces as well. And this one I picked up for $2 at a yard sale. And, not a yard sale, I'm sorry, at a thrift store because it was on half price. And all of this is embroidered. It was like a vintage version of Disney store. I'm going to show you that older tag from sort of the 90s, early 2000s. There you go. And it was just really cool. This is what it looked like full length, but I styled it tied up at the front, and it sold within a week or two of listing for a best offer of $30. Another Disney piece here, paid $1 at a yard sale, sold for $25. If it hadn't have irritated me, I probably would have kept it. The fabric content wasn't for me, but I just thought it was really cool, like little vintage Winnie the Pooh piece. Another example of those kind of Halloween sweaters. This one had a lot of like figural stuff on it, so all of these buttons were stand out, like beaded, and then it had all of this hanging at the bottom, which was really cool, and a lot of beading and embellishment all over. Overall, a really cool piece, but it sold on Poshmark of all places for $22, and I paid $1 for it. This I've mentioned before, didn't think it was going to sell. I bought it for, I think it came out to between 50 cents and $1 at a filler bag. Just a vintage cheerleader costume, obviously said Devils, which was useful because I listed it in September, so before Halloween, and it sold within a day or two for $45. So keep an eye out for like costumes and stuff, even vintage costumes to put on Poshmark. They do move. I've mentioned this one before. It's one of my favorite sales. I paid $1 for this at a yard sale. I think this one was, an estate sale, one of the two. I just loved it with the bright colors and the way it fastened at the front. Just a random windbreaker, no particular brand, and it sold for $50 full asking price within a couple of weeks of listing. These Doc Martens I paid about 50 cents for at a rummage sale. They were so incredibly beaten up. I didn't know if anybody would want them. They were listed on eBay for a long time and nobody was interested. But I figured I would pop them over to Poshmark when I started there and just give it a try. And they sold within a month or two for $40. So just goes to show, even with a lot of like distressing and life to them, they absolutely do move. I wanted to share this because I'm going to be looking for this stuff a lot more coming up this next year. I did really well with these high-cut vintage bathing suits. I'm guessing that was the style last year, and I'm hoping it's still the style this year. But I've already sold a couple, even now in winter. This was the brand. It was nothing that, stood out particularly. But yeah, it did really, really well. So I was excited about that. And I sold quite a few last year, and hopefully I'll pick up a few more. I paid, I think, $1 for this one, and it sold for $22. This was one of my favorite like vintage button-up shirts. Again, this was a full-length one, and I styled it for the photos on Poshmark and on Etsy by tying the front and then kind of like rolling up the sleeves. I think it looks a lot better. It helps you kind of visualize how you would wear it, maybe with high-waisted jeans or something. And it sold for $20, and I paid 25 cents at a filler bag. This was a t-shirt that I sort of rescued, a graphic t-shirt. It was vintage New York. I know that it was from quite a while ago because it had the Twin Towers on it, so obviously that helps date it a little bit. But overall, I just thought it was a really cool graphic. It had a lot of stains and wear to it, and it was kind of an oversized thing, I think. It was a large, but it was like a men's large. So I went ahead and just like hand cropped it, and I rolled the sleeves, and then I kind of put a few stitches in to hold them in place to kind of tab them there, and it sold really quickly for $20. And again, that was 25 cents at a filler bag. Just really like the graphics. And the last Poshmark sale I'm going to show you is these. These are another one that sat for a really, really long time on both eBay and Etsy, and then they sold really quickly on Poshmark within a couple of weeks. They were just a vintage pair of leather, like ankle cowboy kind of booties. I don't know. I thought they were really cool though, with all of the details and stuff. And yeah, they sold really quickly, and they sold for $30. I only paid $1 at a yard sale. Okay, and on to eBay. I'm going to show you real quickly because I only have two to show you because, well, eBay gets rid of everything after 90 days, and I don't sell that much vintage stuff on eBay as of right now. I haven't recently. So I'm going to show you this. I paid $1 at a rummage sale. It was from, I think it was from like the 40s or 50s. A very long, modest bathing suit. I'm going to go ahead and show you the old label. I was able to date that quite efficiently by using the Vintage Label Guild online. You can go ahead and Google that, and you can look up different brands and see how their label has evolved over the years, and it gives you an idea of how to sort of narrow it down to perhaps a decade of when that item was made. And I was really excited for this. So it sold for the full asking price of $79.99, and I paid $1. And the very last one I'm going to show you that sold on eBay, it sold a little while ago, but I kind of wanted to give it a mention because it surprised me, and it kind of taught me again not to overlook things or assume how much something is worth. So I found this for 25 cents at a rummage sale, and obviously Levi's caught my eye. It was an older piece. This is the only photo I have, I'm afraid. It was when I shared it on my Instagram a while ago. But it was the March of Dimes, which is a charity to do with like premature birth and things like that. And when I got it, I first listed it, and I started getting people sending me messages immediately offering me money because I didn't have Buy It Now on. And it sort of rang alarm bells to me that, okay, so this is something that people are interested in, because I got like 3 messages within 10 minutes of listing. So I took it down and I relisted it as an auction. And so it ended up, obviously, as you can see here, with 9 bids, and it sold for $117.50, and then plus shipping. It actually went abroad, I think. Yeah, it just really surprised me. And actually with this one, I took that money there and I donated it to the charity because that's what I felt like doing, because I only had 25 cents in the t-shirt. But more than anything, it also taught me the lesson that, you know, don't assume how much something's worth. Don't assume that because it has like March of Dimes on it that nobody's interested. Actually, that turned out to be pretty much its selling point. So keep your eyes peeled for those vintage graphics, and when in doubt, auction. All right, you guys, that is everything I wanted to show you today. Those are just my favorite vintage sales that I've had over the past couple of years that I've been selling vintage items online. There is so much more that I've sold and enjoyed selling, but those are the things that just really stood out to me as like enjoyable sales, or where I remember I, you know, enjoyed picking them up. I enjoyed researching them. I enjoyed uniting them with the people who purchased it. So please drop down in the comments and tell me what is the most like bizarre, obscure, your favorite thing, whatever it may be that you have sold, whether it be vintage or contemporary, either one. And let me know what that is, and where did you sell it? How much did you sell it for? And where did you find it? If there's a cool story, share that too. All right, you guys, thank you so much for hanging out. If you enjoyed this video, please do hit the like button, and I would love it if you subscribed and came back to see more videos about reselling, whether it be haul videos, sales videos, or how-tos. And I will talk to you all soon. Bye, you guys.